Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and the government wants your privacy. Now, I know that I make a lot of privacy-related content, but boys and girls, let me tell you, the ultimate content farm is the government, okay? Because they always come up with laws that nobody wants. Now, about a year ago, I made a video where I talked about the Earn It Act, okay? It's a video that got almost 500,000 views, and I'm glad that enough people had interest. And why would they have interest? Because such a law threatened your privacy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Earn It Act, which I'm going to read for you the entire name of it, okay? Because it's going to sound really nice on paper, okay? I'm gonna do what the government does. I'm gonna reel you in with some candy, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, the Earn It Act basically is intended to protect victims of online, child abuse, so to speak, right? Really, really bad things. In fact, it's cited as the Eliminating Abusive and Rampant Neglect of Interactive Technologies Act. Now you might be like, but Muda, it's an act that protects children. You made tons of videos protecting children and making videos about this. Why would you, of all people, be against it? Because I don't believe in throwing the baby out with the bathwater, okay? And ladies and gentlemen, this bill really doesn't actually protect the kids. A quick letter that you can read in regards to this act and previous iterations of it is coming right out of the Freedom Network for, the United States of America, which is one of the largest coalitions for anti-trafficking. And, if this bill was really intended to do what it set out to do, I don't think a lot of these organizations, this is just one of many, that have come out and talked against this. It's a pretty telling sign when even the people you want to defend are telling you that the law you've created to defend them isn't exactly doing a proper defense. In fact, if anything, it actually puts you at risk. And we'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end of the video. But yeah, it's not a good law. But what is Section 230 and how would it actually be under risk from an act like this? Well, let's read it. See, the reality of it is this bill wants to wipe away Section 230 protections, the broad protections that a lot of websites like YouTube, like Reddit, like a lot of social media services have. Typically involves simply no provider or any use of any interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. Basically, it's a good Samaritan clause. As long as a service provider finds any content that is obscene, lewd, lascivious, filthy, excessively violent, harassing, and otherwise objectionable, constitutionally protected or otherwise, they may take actions in good faith to restrict said content. Now, Section 230 has been pretty controversial because, like everything, it has to be overly politicized, in my opinion. But generally, the idea with Section 230 is it doesn't necessarily allow a website to remove anything that it feels, goes against values, so to speak. I mean, there's a debate to be had there, but generally, Section 230 typically gives a lot of protection to websites. Typically, if something illicit or is posted, for instance. And usually, if Section 230 wasn't there, somebody could post something illegal onto, say, Twitter, and then the platform holder, Twitter, could then be, taken liable. They could be subject to civil and criminal penalties. So by having Section 230 and the broad protections it provides, it allows a lot of people to retain their free speech, quote unquote, and the ability to have these platforms in the first place. So if there are bad actors, they're the ones that can be, targeted. And generally, we try to take away as much responsibility from the I guess you could say, not the publisher, but the platform holder, the person who is distributing this massive internet platform that allows us to communicate to each other with so much ease. That's typically what Section 230 is for. And, for all of its faults, I think the positives far outweigh the negatives. Somebody posts illegal content onto YouTube, YouTube removes it in good faith, and they typically aren't treated as a publisher. They're not treated as the broadcaster. And it's one of those things that allows a lot of these websites to let you post user-generated content. The moment you take away Section 230 protections, the moment you put even further burdens onto these creators, onto these websites and these services, the more issues you cause them, okay? That's ultimately the problem. So what did the Earn It Act really want to do? Well, it wanted to create a further, I guess you could say, it wanted to put more responsibility on those website operators. So again, the problem with this, the real concern here, is it would pretty much force some of these websites to pull back a lot of the protections they give us. Notably, end-to-end encryption, which is an important aspect of talking with your friends on the internet. Do you know what end-to-end encryption is? Let me explain it, okay? When you talk to your friend, okay, let's do the hand puppet game, okay? When Peter wants to talk to David, okay, on the other side of the country, they use an online service, okay? Something like WhatsApp, something like Discord, something like whatever social media service. Now, if that social media service provides end-to-end encryption, which they should, typically Peter's device has a set of keys, David's device has a set of keys. Now, what happens is those keys decrypt each other's their messages. So if Peter writes, "Hey David, how's it going, buddy, pal, friend?" writes that whole sentence out and sends it, his device will encrypt that message. So it'll fly through the internet tube, right, as it goes to David. Now, let's say that Tommy, the hacker, comes into the middle, the man in the middle. You know, he sees that data packet flying and he's like, whoa, I'm gonna yoink that out of the internet hyperspace. Now, Tommy, the hacker, has that, message. But oh no, it's encrypted, meaning that Tommy's sitting there with his dick in his hand doing nothing. Now, Tommy could try to break the encryption, but ladies and gentlemen, this is real life, not a goddamn Hollywood movie. Tommy don't have that free time, Tommy don't have that processing power, and Tommy don't have the necessary amount of fucks it takes to look into that message. So that message flows all the way to David. And because of end-to-end encryption, David's the only one whose device can decrypt that message. So as he decrypts it, he says, "Oh, everything's going good, buddy pal." And he responds back to old Petey. And this happens multiple times a second, okay, as they communicate to each other, okay? So that's pretty much the gist of end-to-end encryption. If you've got it, if you didn't understand it before, hopefully you understand it now. Hopefully I gave you the Eli 1 example of it, okay? Now, the reason why this is important, and a lot of websites provide this because, it's a competitive field out there, and any bit of privacy is always helpful, especially when it's so easy to do. Pulling the Earn It Act into question would basically implore that these websites stop providing encryption just so that they can better scan your material and they can be more proactive, so to speak, lest they be treated civilly or under criminal penalties by not having easy access, if you will. Okay, it's complicated, it's tough, and this law has been introduced twice. And the reason I'm talking about it is in the last week, it's been brought back again for some fucking reason. So again, the bill over here, the Earn It Act of 2023, which again has literally just been reintroduced once again. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if we look into it over here, you can see that Section 230 of the Communications Act is amended by adding at the end the following. Okay, so basically, again, no effect on the exploitation law for children, but also they do talk about encryption technology. So basically, in general, notwithstanding paragraph 6, none of the following actions or circumstances shall serve as an independent basis for liability of a provider of an interactive computer service for a claim or charge described in the paragraph. So if the provider utilizes that full end-to-end encryption messaging services, like I told you, Petey and David talking to each other on WhatsApp, device encryption, and again, lots of devices are already built in with encryption. If you bought a device in like the last 2-3 years, it's probably encrypted from day one. Your cell phone, your laptop, your desktop computer. Again, very important to have. If somebody steals my phone off of me, they can't just get the data off of it because it's all encrypted. You benefit from it, I benefit from it, everyone benefits from the extra privacy, okay? Now, of course, you've also got other encryption services, so on and so forth. Then, of course, the provider does not possess the information necessary to decrypt a communication. Again, this is pretty much referring to a backdoor. When these services create end-to-end encryption, it's with the idea that there isn't a secret third key that is just scanning and can be used at any moment. That's a backdoor, and that defeats the entire fucking purpose of having encrypted communications if you just have a key that can access it at any given moment. You know who's interested in that key beyond just the government for scanning your private information? Criminals, cyber attackers, so on and so forth. People that have an even more vested interest in your private communications. Then, of course, the provider fails to take an action that would otherwise undermine the ability of the provider to offer full end-to-end encryption messaging services, blah, blah, so on and so forth. Now, of course, we're still waiting for more and more of this to come by, but the last time this was introduced, after it failed the first time, they really didn't change much out of this law. Because at the end of the day, it's not about protecting children, okay? If it was about protecting children, they would seek even more better avenues. No, this is more so about taking away or kind of incentivizing these companies to rip away encryption. Because if you don't know, the government, rather the law enforcement agencies of the United States, absolutely hate encryption, okay? The FBI makes like a fucking fluff piece on this every year, even back all the way from 2014 when they were starting their Going Dark campaign. So the best part about this report actually is how the FBI is complaining about how they're losing billable hours because of device encryptions that are taking up, their valuable time to try to look through information. And the thing about it is, like, the FBI really doesn't even need to put a war on encryption this hard, or really any law enforcement agency, because even the chief law enforcement agencies, and notably the FBI here, have admitted that they can get into like most of these devices, like at least 85% of the time. So again, throwing the baby out with the bathwater starts to make less sense than you would think. If they already had the means and the connections to break most of these devices that are already grabbed from criminals under investigation anyways, why limit the security and ultimately freedoms of people that have never done anything wrong? Why choose to go against these technologies? I don't know. Maybe it's because, the government just wants more power and the ability to look into your personal information without ever needing warrants or really ever needing to, go to judges, so to speak. It's a wild world, man, I'm telling you. Ever since the internet was made, dude, the war on privacy and the war on you, it's been a thing. Now, of course, plenty of applications exist which have pretty much plugged up communications. And of course, if you have backdoors, and again, the FBI and law enforcement agencies tell you they want these backdoors, so if somebody is using these services illegally, whether it is to actually spread illegal child material or, drug cartels or actual terror organizations to communicate back and forth, the FBI says, hey, having a backdoor would make our investigations easier. And look, I get it. I don't like bad people using good technology. But that's just the thing. Technology is a tool. Much like a firearm, much like anything, it's really up to the actual individual using it. Now, do I think that these materials and tools should be banned just because of bad people? No. I think the good outweighs the bad more so. And generally, taking away our privacy just to stop a few criminals, so to speak, because again, we don't really have hard metrics from any of these agencies, I don't think that's a good thing to do anyways. So the thing about it is, the thing that I hate about this law so much is anytime it's introduced, they always introduce it with the idea of protecting the kids. When, again, it's not really about protecting the kids. They just want to de-incentivize a lot of these like private organizations, these companies, into taking away actual proper encryption. And it's so weird in a day where so many cyber attacks happen and so many people look through information nowadays that trying to incentivize these companies or kind of fear them into actually taking away these encryption technologies is so baffling to me. All because, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that these government agencies just want to have easier access into the people that they're investigating. I don't think that this is entirely depending on just like a mass. I don't think the government really just wants to spy into everyone's information. They can pretty much do that anyways. But I think this law is pretty much only designed to help aid law enforcement agencies into just easy access into materials, okay, or easy subpoenas, so to speak. Which, again, I totally understand why law enforcement agencies want to stop criminals with ease, but at the same time, taking away your privacy isn't, it shouldn't even be a factor. And again, law enforcement agencies typically wanted to provide a best practice, so again, having a backdoor to these encryptions, which again, defeat the entire goddamn purpose of private communications. Basically, these companies would be incentivized to provide that backdoor or get rid of encryption altogether. Otherwise, they face even harsher scrutiny when these broad provisions are repealed. So again, the idea here is so wild because at the end of the day, the problem with this is it kind of undermines what companies already do anyways. See, if you look into what YouTube is doing, YouTube and Google itself fight CSAM material so hard every day. In fact, they're the ones that have some of the best technology alongside Microsoft that basically helps detect hashes in videos, images, so on and so forth. Actually, Google provides this material entirely for free. They allow anybody running websites, from my understanding, to utilize their tools to stop illegal material on the internet all over the world. Of course, it's not just that. Even Apple, which again tries to offer privacy to its cell phones for every user, also does CSAM detection on iCloud and, from what I understand, even people's devices, all also providing you privacy as well too. And the way that they do this is utilizing actual technologies known as NeuroHash, which allow them to basically have an actual database of CSAM hashes, which again are hashes that have been cataloged by law enforcement agencies, by big tech companies, basically images and image hashes they know are illegal, and cross-referencing them with hashes that exist on iCloud and potentially people's devices. Now again, this is a good technology used to stop people sharing known illegal materials. Because these hashes are known and they're just going to be running checks, all throughout images or all throughout, information on their servers, all while again protecting your privacy, they're already doing more than what should reasonably be expected. So again, right over here, CSAM detection from Apple, again from Apple here, Apple doesn't learn anything about the images that don't match known CSAM databases. So they actually are comparing it to known images, like I said. They can't access metadata or visual derivatives for matched CSAM images until a threshold of matches is exceeded. It's not just tripping on one image, it's tripping on a whole lot of them, okay? The entire idea here is Apple understands this is a problem. We all know that illegal material shared is a problem. But you can't just throw away privacy for the sake of the children. The other concern with such an act, again, is if you take away blanket encryption or you incentivize people to make their services less secure, the general service, then people actually committing crimes are just going to switch to something that's even hardened anyways. It might incentivize a criminal who's committing these acts on something like WhatsApp or Facebook or so on and so forth, to consider going to the Tor browser and utilizing, VPN services that are hella privacy focused, where if they had a chance of being caught at one point, they'll never be caught because they've switched to even more aggressive forms of technology. And what is the government going to go after that too? I mean, it's a never-ending arms race, and the biggest losers are the ones that are actually innocent. The other also thing is when it comes to situations like this and current laws about evidence gathering and wiretapping, this could actually be a situation where if the government gets access to certain surveillances or certain communications, would that even be admissible in court? If somebody was actually convicted of criminal actions and they were a criminal, what if they could abuse a loophole where they could literally say this was obtained without any form of legality? Or this was obtained, illegally? Could they get by on technicalities? There's so many things to this law, to this bill, to this entire, piece of legislation being introduced that is ultimately bad, and it should be stopped. You might be like, Muda, why are you so passionate about an American law? Because at the end of the day, there is a domino effect, okay? If America passes a law, there's nothing stopping Canada or any other country in that Five Eyes Alliance, the 11 Eyes Alliance, from passing similar laws. And once you lose encryption and privacy on the internet, that's a complete loss for the world. I believe in privacy, I believe in encryption, and I believe that people have a right to it. When you look into the history of encryption, even the founding fathers, George Washington and co., literally used cryptograms and mass dispatches to literally create the framework into freeing and creating one of the biggest countries in the world. It's kind of hilarious, right? The founding fathers kind of built this country on the backbone of encryption too. That's one of the tools they used to even launch their campaign and free the country and rebel. And now it's funny that the same country is trying to take away those basic rights from the average person just because law enforcement agencies find it a little bit too tough to work with. Well, I think tough fucking titty, okay, ladies and gentlemen? Earn It is an ultimately dangerous and negative bill. And I know this has been a little long-winded, a little bit technical, but I do want to make a video about it because I do make a lot of privacy and malware-related content. And I do promote privacy above everything. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you think the same. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am